welcome to Star Wars Spelt Out. I'm your host, Josh Chapman, and today, returning guest, returning favourite guest, returning popular favourite guest. Weird circumstances that we're doing it when we're doing it now. My lockdown buddy, my sister in arms, my partner in pain, only a few miles or kilometres away from where I am right now, held up at home like I'm holed up at home. Tracy Gardner, how you going over there?
Hey, how are you going? We're holding up. We're inside our house in our little 5K bubble, behaving. So, yeah.
Yeah, same here. We're doing all that again, although we've got the added bonus of homeschool this time around, which we haven't had before. So, yeah, that's been interesting. So far, so good. It's okay. It's only been sort of like 4 days. We haven't had any meltdowns or anything yet, which is good.
Not yet. How old is Olive?
She's 5. She'll be 6 in end of July. So she's doing prep at the moment. So that's like, first year of primary school.
Is that like kindergarten?
No, they do kindergarten before that. And then,
Okay.
I don't know. It's kind of, how many years of primary school do you do in America? Do you do 7?
Some people do pre-K. So it really depends. Like, I think it's generational. When I was a kid, we did kindergarten through 6th grade was like our elementary school.
Right. Okay.
And then you go to like a separate junior high for 2 years, and then you go to a high school.
That was always the weird thing, like always watching like American TV shows and stuff, and they talk about junior year and senior year and sophomore year and all this stuff. We're going, we had year 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and that was it. And we're all in, that was it. There was no sort of like breaking it down by your years or being a junior or a senior.
I've noticed that because I've been telling, like I told someone like a story and I'm like, oh yeah, like my sophomore year. And Australians, I forget that that's such a like exclusively American thing, because like my like UK and like Australian friends will be like, what's a sophomore? Like that means nothing to me. And I'm like, oh, that's so weird. Like freshman, sophomore, yeah, junior, senior.
Yeah. So you get like a separate school and then like another separate school, isn't it?
Yeah. So you go to I think I went to like 4 campuses by the time I got to high school.
Wow. Yeah. So there's a funny phenomenon here that I wasn't aware of, because I went to like a rural country high school, and it's just everybody in. And then some of my friends, who are friends in Melbourne and stuff, they went to quite exclusive private schools. And for the girls' sake anyway, for their year 9 of high school, which means they're about 15 or whatever, so for that year, they get put in like a separate school somewhere else for like just them, because that's like their most, I don't know, influential year, I suppose, when they're all sort of 14, 15.
Oh.
So they all get shipped out of the high school. So all like 7, 8, 10, 11, 12 are all left at the school. But the year 9s, the 14, 15-year-olds, where they are, they get shipped to this other school for that 1 year.
I mean, I guess that would be kind of nice. Like 14 is like a weird year because like we turned 13, 14 in our year 9, and then you're on campus with like 18-year-olds.
Yeah, so I think maybe that might be sort of, when you're at that most influential, you're not a little kid anymore, but you're not a big kid, so,
Yeah, that makes sense.
Good work if you can get it.
Right?
It's so this weird thing, because like Kat, she went to a private girls' school, and I went to a country rural school, and we were sort of talking about, because we've got 2 girls going like, would we send them to a girls' school, would we send them to a public school, would we send them to a private school, that kind of stuff. And I'm just like, well, for a long time we worked at the same company, Kat and I, just going, well, we worked at the same company for pretty much the same wage, and you had all that education and I had standard country person's education, but here we are.
I love that. I love that. That's so funny.
But she's like absolutely surpassed me now. She's like talking about doing a PhD and stuff. I'm like, well, it was good while it lasted. I've peaked.
Yeah. Being on the same playing field was fun while it lasted.
Yeah, that's right. So we are back in lockdown here, unfortunately, which is pretty unbelievable. I'm sure some people are going like, what, how could you be back in lockdown? You guys were having 80,000 people at the footy, and everybody was down the beach and just having a great old time. And and the problem is that when you have no cases, but then no one's really vaccinated, as soon as it gets out, everybody's vulnerable again, unfortunately. But
yeah. Well, and it's funny because I don't know if people quite I've gotten a lot of questions from my friends back home, and I don't think they really understand Melbourne culture, which is very much like a party culture.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like you get this one person that's infected and they go to like 5 bars and like 3 clubs and they're partying till like 7 or 8 in the morning. Like one of the check-ins at Circus was at like 9 in the morning.
So the thing is that Tracy runs a bar or a couple of bars in Melbourne, and you were like ground zero, but you were talking just before that your clientele wouldn't go to those other bars. So you guys were actually like the little eye in the tornado, where it was like the hot spots were all around you, and you guys were too cool in the middle.
Yeah, I was like laughing with the owner operator about that. I was like, well, Data always tells the story, and we're literally smack dab between these two very popular bars. It's like Somewhere Bar and Three Monkeys, but they tend to have a little bit younger crowd, and I don't have a lot of patience for like really you know, if like you're 18 and you rock up to the bar and you're like, what's the cheapest I can get drunk? Like I'm probably going to tell you this isn't the bar for you. So we obviously have been doing that effectively because we didn't have a single crossover with like the contact tracing.
Yeah. It's just a weird phenomenon here because, you know, like every other,
Yeah.
most countries have got, you know, lots and lots of cases and they manage it the best they can. I had Alice from the Forced Toast podcast on a few weeks ago, and she got COVID the week after she was on, and she was talking about how she'd been holed up in Chicago for a year, and then she got out and then caught COVID the next week. And I think it was,
oh my gosh.
I think it was just before she was about to get her vaccination too. She's fine now, but the funny thing was we were talking about COVID, and this was before she got it. I just said, if you got it in Australia, if you were the one, your whole personal movements would be splashed all over the news. Like if you just get it in Chicago, you're just another person. Like who cares? You're just another number with all the other people. But she's like, oh my God, well I would have gone here and I would have gone here and I would have done this, or they would have just seen how sad my life was because I wasn't doing anything. And it's just weird, isn't it? Like everyone just goes to Bunnings. Someone's either going out all night or they're going to Bunnings.
But then it's like, I don't know, I just liked the ones where it's like they went to the footy and then they went to like clubs. And I think like, because some of this news does get to America. So I did have a friend ask me, they were like, why were they at a club at like 8 in the morning? And I'm like, because that's a very common thing to do in Melbourne. Like, yeah, it's not, our clubs are like, a lot of them have 24-hour licenses. So it is possible to party until like midday. I think that Data on the, like, I don't know, just some of the check-ins were making me laugh really hard because I'm like, this person had a great time.
Yeah. Probably sitting back going, no regrets. You know?
Yeah.
It was worth it.
Yeah.
No problem with that. So how's your Star Wars life going? Now, I think the last time you were on was just after Rise of Skywalker had come out. I think you were
that's right.
You were on just after it dropped. And I seem to remember you being pretty happy with it all. But I mean, I haven't spoken to you since like Mandalorian finished or all that extra sort of Disney stuff. And is it still sort of popping away at your house, or is it kind of just sort of off in the corner, something you're not really thinking about much at the moment?
No, I think I just don't really participate as much in like the fandom side as I used to. But yeah, I'm definitely still keen on everything. Although I haven't watched Bad Batch, and I don't know, I watched the first episode and I just didn't really grip me. And I love that everyone else seems to be having the time of their lives. And like a lot of my friends love it. I just genuinely couldn't get into it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I can't remember what my attitude on Rise of Skywalker was last time we spoke. Like I liked it, but then it's like it doesn't hold up for me. Like my opinions changed, which happens to me every time a Star Wars movie comes out. But then, I think it's still my least favorite. Although I'm curious to watch it now that they've color corrected it. I thought that was interesting.
I saw that. I haven't, I've watched it a few times just occasionally, but I haven't gone back to it for quite a while now.
Yeah.
But I certainly haven't watched it since they've color corrected it. I'm like, oh, is that as much of an incentive for me to go back and have a look at it out of curiosity, going, will I even really notice it? But it's quite a funny thing, isn't it? Like you can just live in this world where you can just keep. Like talking about the special editions, it was like, oh, we had to go through and do that and put them in the movies for everyone to see it, and then put it out on video. Now you can just keep tinkering with this stuff all you want and just pop it back out again.
Yeah, that's the weird thing about streaming. But also, have you watched something on streaming and then watching it not on streaming and realize how much compression like changes?
Oh yeah,
changes things. It's a trip, like because I think our eyes get really used to like the the frame rate and like compression, not frame rate because it's like not film, but you know what I mean? Like the way that streaming kind of is different.
Yeah.
I think our eyes get really used to that because like if you watch like a TV show like The Office or something, if you watch it on like DVD from ages ago, it's kind of jarring because you're like, oh, it's so different. So it's weird that Star Wars movies and like these big cinematic movies that we kind of always had on DVD and stuff, now we're just going to be watching them on streaming. I think that's interesting.
Yeah, well, I still like I don't buy DVDs new anymore, but you know, I sort of ultimately, if I go to like a flea market or a market here or something somewhere, and I see, you know, like I got a bunch of stuff a few weeks ago that was, you know, stuff like Avengers Endgame for $2 on Blu-ray. Going, well, you never know. I might wake up one day on Disney Plus and they've just pulled it, you know, for whatever reason. Like, well, I'd want to watch it, so it's just there. Like, I'm not going to rush out and, you know, I used to be you know, I'd go out and buy a DVD on the drop $35 on it to have it, you know, in the collection, and that's what I would watch stuff on. But now it's like, if I have to get up off the couch and walk to get the DVD, it's too much work, you know.
Yeah,
it's which is terrible.
But it is weird. Like one day, if you have nothing to do and like you're bored or whatever, do it. Like watch, like compare it because it's really fascinating how different things look on streaming. So I would be interested to watch like Rise of Skywalker on Blu-ray and then watch it on Disney Plus because I imagine there'd be like differences.
Well, they brought out that big like. They brought out that huge DVD box set of like the Skywalker saga, and it was like in that huge box with the Death Star on it, and it was, I don't know, like $300-$400 or whatever, and it had 15 DVDs, and it had all the movies on Blu-ray and 4K and blah blah blah, all that stuff. Like that's obsolete. That's like out of date now. You know, like the Rise of Skywalker on that is now not the most current version of things. It's really weird. It's sort of almost like you bought a car and like the new cars just come out the week after, or you know, when you buy a phone, you're like, oh, I just bought that new phone and they just announced a new, better phone. A stupid old phone that I've only had for a month. What did you think of Mandalorian? What did you think of the Luke Skywalker reveal? Did you see it coming?
I didn't actually, because I don't like participate in spoiler stuff anymore, which it's so weird. Like I love getting surprised by things. Like it's just really fun. So I genuinely had no idea.
That one was, I don't think anybody knew that one. Like the stuff about like Ahsoka and some of the other things had gotten out, but Luke Skywalker was never, it was only ever speculated. It was never like, hey, this is happening. As far as I
don't remember who I thought it was going to be. Do you remember, like, did you have any speculation on who you thought it would be?
I always thought that like Luke made sense in the story, like the story wise, but I always just thought that they just wouldn't do it because it would be too hard to, well, like Mark Hamill's 60, he said he was done with Star Wars. I didn't want like some weird other person in it or just the back of the head. You know what I mean? Like I was kind of going, you know, maybe it's, but the moment they sort of, the X-Wing showed up in the cloak, I'm like, oh wow, they are going to do it. And then it was more, how are they going to do it? You know what I mean? Like, is it going to be, are they going to pull the hood up and it's just some random dude who says, hello, I'm Luke Skywalker. And you're like, no, you're not. Like, you can tell me all you want that you're Luke Skywalker, but you're not. That's that whole sort of recasting thing. But
everyone's like, no.
Yeah, no, you're not. It's like, oh, I am. Like, no, no. Here's a picture. Here's what Luke Skywalker looks like. You know.
Yeah.
I mean, the CGI de-aging stuff wasn't perfect, but I'd much rather have that and go, well, it's definitely Mark Hamill. It's supposed to be him. I don't want some fake dude, but yeah, it's cool. Like they kind of went there. Like it kind of feels like, well, if they're going to do that, they'll do anything now.
Yeah, it does have that feeling of like, I guess it kind of set the bar for how ambitious that show was, because the first season, I think we were all kind of like really pleasantly surprised at like the special effects and the writing overall. And then I think the second season, it was like, oh fuck, like they're doing this. Oh, sorry, am I allowed to swear? I can't remember.
You can go for it, dude. Fuck yeah.
I can never remember like which shows I can swear on and which ones I can't. So, but yeah, no, I think that's when we realized like, oh wow, they're doing this. Like we're getting some pretty good cameos. I don't know. I actually liked Ahsoka. I know like most people didn't. I know there's a lot of drama with like Rosario Dawson. Drama, like very like, I don't know, disturbing behavior from her. But I thought Ahsoka was okay. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm like so ambivalent. Like I'm really good at letting things be separate. So for me, she was so separate from like the Ahsoka that we've seen in animation, and that doesn't that doesn't really bother me.
No, I mean, I never had a huge attachment to like, I thought she was a perfectly fine character, but I wasn't sort of like, oh my God, she's got to be a certain way or anything. And I think when I had when I had somebody else on the show a while ago, I was talking about that sort of like my level of just sort of being like, yeah, that's cool, I'll go with it. You know what I mean? Like I've got to an age now, maybe because I'm older, that I don't really, nothing really upsets me that much. When I've kind of, if something's crap, I'll just go, oh, that's crap. Like I know Star Wars is sort of, you take it more personally because you invest a lot of time and effort into it, and at the same time, I can just like, oh, that's a shame. Like I was on a podcast, the 3 Minute and Baby Yoda one the other day, and they were talking about Rise of Skywalker and how they were kind of, they were a bit bummed by it and whatever else. And I said, oh, look, not all of it landed for me, but I'm like, there'll be another one soon. Like, stakes are so much lower now. It's just like, there'll be more stuff. It's not the be all and end all. It's not the last thing you'll ever see. They'll get another try.
Yeah. I just hope they like, I don't know. I've spoken about this with a couple of like my friends who aren't really like online. They're more like in real life, like nerd friends. And like one of the things that got brought up among like my girlfriends who like Star Wars is that why do they have to kind of like give this finality to the sequel characters? Like you don't feel like they're ever going to give us anything more with like Ben and Rey. And like what a swing and a miss. Like we have an entire subculture now of fandom just based on like the dyad and their relationship and like, just such a cool opportunity, and then they just kind of squash that. And that's something that's like a little bit of lingering sadness for me, is like I would really like to see more from those two characters, and I think they set up this really cool premise. Like it would be really cool if we even got like a comic or a show or something of like, maybe like Rey exploring the Force, and it just feels like they're not going to do that. Is that too pessimistic?
I think this is something I've spoken. People have asked me the same thing, and just like, why are we always going back? Why are we always going back? And I think it's purely a logistical business decision. I think it's, like if you go in like Star Wars time, like they had the story of Star Wars rolls on. Like Rise of Skywalker was like the last thing that we know that happens in time. So that's kind of like today. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. So, at the moment they're going, well, if we want to make more of these Star Wars movies, we don't know if we can get Daisy Ridley, John Boyega, Oscar Isaac, God, I've forgotten his name now. Oh, people are going to be so mad. Adam Driver, if it's Ghost Adam Driver or whatever it's going to be. Like the future is uncertain with that. So until we know for sure that we can commit those actors and tell that we can't tell any stories, because we can't commit to telling a story in a comic and then turning out that we can't get one of them and it contradicts this. They're sort of that slave to canon. So they go like, hey, if we do the John Boyega thing or the Finn show, and then it turns out that we say something in it that happens to Rey, then we've contradicted ourselves later on. We kind of got to get all our ducks in a row, and then we kind of fill the gaps in before we can go forward. So that's why they're so obsessed with going back, because it's like, well, it's already happened. We can just plot the bits in between for what we want to do. Like anytime we go forward from this point, we're gonna commit ourselves to a story, whether we like it or not. So I think that's just why they've stopped, because they've just gone, well, we want to make episode 10 for sure, but we've got to convince all these people to do it, and if they don't want to do it, then we've got to pick a whole new story to do it, and then we have to make sure what we're going to do with, like, is it going to be like Return of the Jedi again? Are we going to have 30 years of nothing, and then we pick up the story 30 years later with new people, and then plop the people who want to come in back in? I don't know. Like, I think it's a purely business thing more. I don't think it's a slight to the fans to say, oh, well, we're not going to do Rey anymore because some people didn't like Rey, or we didn't like the diet. I think it's more just going like, we don't have Daisy Ridley and we don't want to make stories about Rey without knowing she'll commit, and then we can figure out what we want to do with it.
Honestly, I don't know. Like, I agree, and I also think that there is like more to it. Just because look at Marvel. Like, Marvel's been able to like full steam ahead create new content, but also keep these massive actors in contract. Like, they got Natalie Portman back. Like, come on, she was like not the biggest fan of like this kind of content, like she doesn't exactly speak highly of like Star Wars or Marvel, and they got her to come back. So I feel like they have the resuresources to tell
I think
more adventurous things with Star Wars, but I think they're genuinely afraid of the fan base. Like, I genuinely think Star Wars would be so much better off if there wasn't instead of like I guess being like a slave to canon, I really feel like they're like a slave to like this really, really fickle, really toxic court of approval.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's almost like lately, and this is just my opinion, like I could be wrong and I don't think everyone agrees with me, but I feel like lately Star Wars storytelling has greatly suffered because they're just so aware of the fan base.
Yeah. And who do you like? It's such a the double-edged sword of being one of the most popular franchises in the world is that you've got fans from every part of the world with their all different opinions and different ideas, and people hold things truer to whatever else, and things have things change and opinions change and everything. It's like how do you please everybody? So you can either go, hey, we can't, so we're just going to back ourselves, and that might not work, or you can go, hey, we're going to listen to these to the majority. And it's like, well, if you're leaving that, then you're leaving the minorities out. Like, you don't let the majorities dictate the fate of the minority. So it's just a harder thing. Like, I think what they're basically doing now is going, well, we're just going to spread ourselves wider. So, they've got, when they had that Kathy Kennedy, came up on the Disney thing last year. Was it last year? Maybe it was the year before now. God, I can't even tell what year's what. And she pulled out all those like 7 Disney Plus shows, and then the Rogue Squadron movie and the Taika Waititi thing. I think they're just going to go, all right, well, we can't please everybody 100% all the time, but with one movie that's coming out, so let's do 10 things, and hopefully we can appease most of you in one way or another. Or I don't know. It's it used to be just one movie, like, and that was what you got.
Yeah.
But then there's more stuff, but it still comes from the top down.
But we're still not seeing like anything with these like sequel trilogies and with those characters, and I know that was like a massive, at least in my circles, like that was a massive discussion of like, wow, like they really do not like I don't know, it feels like the fans that they picked up from the sequel trilogy were largely younger women, and they've given us nothing. Like they've given like, well, not us, I'm old now, but like I don't know, like I feel like I've, just because I tend to interact more with like the women in fandom lately, and like a lot of like the Relylo community and stuff, which I know has its own problems, but like I guess the friends that I've made through it aren't problematic. But there seems to be this like really heavy feeling of like, well, you got all these like women fans who were really into the Kylo and Rey dynamic, and even like the people that are just into the dynamic for like how cool it was, not even just like the like shipping, just feel really neglected by all these new projects, because it's like, wow, like they're just continuously giving the same sect of fandom like content. Does that make sense? Like,
no, absolutely.
It feels like just like there's this one part of like, not part of fandom, there's this one like, I guess demographic that's just constantly being catered to, and it's like, well, we spend money on this franchise too. Like,
yeah, look, I don't like, I can't talk to the intentions and stuff, but again, I think it's that going back is easier from a story point of view because it's already there and you can just fill the gaps. The business ramifications of sending the story forward without, they got absolutely burnt last time for being accused of having no plan of doing this sequel thing of different directors and writers and stuff. I think they're a bit gun shy. And the movie's only been, on that press tour at the end of Rise of Skywalker, like Daisy Ridley, John Boyega, they're all just like, we're freaking done, man. You know what I mean? Like they were like,
that was so sad. But they seemed so over it. That was really depressing.
Yeah, I know. Well, you ask them after a 6-year, like being in that bubble and all the stuff that comes with it. And I think that's probably got a lot to do with it too. So they're just kind of like, we can't go out there and announce all this Rey content because we want Daisy Ridley to come back and be happy and be like, let's go. So at the same time, like you could do some books. You could there's Force Awakens, between Force Awakens and Last Jedi Rise. There's gaps where you could produce content for sure. Like you could put some books in, you could put some comics in, you could do some stuff like that. And I think if they wanted to cater to that market now, they could do that. But I think that they're just sort of, they're obsessed with this streaming platform thing now. They see this as the best way to try to, like I said, spread the content out, hit a few different targets. Some of it to me is more interesting than others. I think they've already canned that Rangers of the New Republic one, but like something like the Acolyte sounds really interesting because I loved Russian Doll. I'm like, oh, the lady who did Russian Doll's doing it. That's interesting.
Oh yeah,
Like, what's she gonna do?
Decide. I can't decide what I'm excited about. I know I'm definitely really excited for Andor. And I think we should all do like a watch party with Catherine because it's going to be like the best day of her life.
Right now, I know.
Yeah.
If anybody knows, like maybe we'll get a few more listeners. We always get a few more listeners when Tracy's on because people like Tracy and she doesn't podcast as much as she used to be. So if you're listening and you're somewhere, you got ears in the Disney Lucasfilm corridors, throw Catherine Nina a shout out for Andor. Get a private screening. Get a something.
Yeah.
Do something to reward the world's biggest Andor fan out there. Okay, like we don't know whether we're going to get to Celebration or not. So, a little bit of good PR. If you want a little bit of good mojo in the fandom, throw our friend Catherine a bone. Whatever it is, even if it's just like a hoodie or something, anything.
Yeah, she's definitely the biggest fan. Like I'm excited. I'm excited for the show because I'm excited to see like her reaction every week. It's just gonna be like pure joy, and I'm so happy about that.
We're gonna get there'll be trailers before that anyway, so at least we'll get that, So there'll be it's good. Like I like when people get excited about stuff.
Yeah,
and that makes me more excited. So
yeah,
I'm looking forward to Andor, definitely. I just think it's a good premise. I think it's just a start of the rebellion. They're in the shit. Kind of, it's interesting. Like it can be a little bit greedy. Who do you trust? It's a cool idea for sure.
See, that's my favorite. Like when we do go back, like that's probably my favorite era to go back to. Like I'm absolutely obsessed with Rogue One. I think Rogue One has like held up for me as my favorite of all the new stuff. Like I do really like The Last Jedi, but I think Rogue One's my favorite of all the new Star Wars stuff.
Is it most? It's probably the least. I don't even like using the word. It's probably the most universally praised film of the new ones for sure.
Yeah, it wasn't for a while, and then I feel like people really didn't like it when it first came out, and there was all that talk about like Jyn being a Mary Sue, and like it was really, there was a lot of negativity around it at first, but I think it's kind of settled in the best in terms of like fandom. I guess I don't know what people are feeling. I don't know. I don't really have a good feel on like the community anymore though.
Yeah, I really know within my own bubble of friends that I interact with. You know what I mean? Like the wider stuff, occasionally a tweet will throw through and I'm like, oh, I don't even care. And a lot of the time it's kind of like I want to talk about the things of fandom. Sometimes it's just like some random stupid tweet that some person with 3 followers made and it's just like, who cares and whatever. Like I just, again, maybe it's an aging thing, but I've never really felt the need to get in somebody else's grill about what they think about something unless they're really, being mean or something, purposely mean to somebody else or putting them down for who they are or whatever. But if it's just, you're just kind of making some weird statement about something, it's like, oh, all right, well, fine, I guess. It doesn't really matter. I was going to ask, like, what about stuff like High Republic? Like, has that drifted across your thing at all? Are you a book person?
What's that?
Are you a book person at all?
Yeah, look, I read so much. Like I literally finished a book yesterday. Like reading is probably one of my favorite things. I hate to say that I don't like Star Wars books. I loved them when I was younger, when they weren't as like sanitized and sort of, I don't know, they were so much fun when like I guess Legends, like I don't know, they were just so stupid that they were really fun.
Anything goes. Again, it's that canon thing. It's just like, well, they're just like, whatever, who cares?
Yeah.
Like, just do it, and then we'll amend it in the next book if it's too wacky. But now it's this so much slave to canon and everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I liked the New Dawn and stuff, but then when the High Republic stuff came out, I kind of gauged everyone else's reactions to it, and nothing about it seemed like something I was gonna like. So like, did you like them?
No, well, I'm Sam. I just didn't read the books. I mean, there's a few friends who have podcasts who talk about the books, and I got to hear, like Hors Burkhardt describe what happens in the book. So it's just like, great, that's all I need. He would be like, buddy, and then this happened, and this happened, and he would use references that I would get because we've got a similar state for references. I was like, oh, that's interesting, that's cool, like great, like. It sounds like it's really interesting, and if they make a movie or a cartoon of it, I'll watch it. But if it just ends up staying as a book, then cool. Like I think some people are really getting into it, but I think the first book particularly was really well received. But again, it's just another I've got such little spare time enough as it is, even though I'm home all the time. I mean, I was home. I've been working from home even before we got locked in again, so I'm just here all the time anyway. But, which is, it's better than commuting, I suppose. But look, I think it's cool. It's good that they showed a bit of ambition to try something completely new in a new era, and kind of cut the cord of all the typical stuff.
Yeah, look, I definitely think it's a cool idea. And if I was younger and had more time, maybe I would read them. But I just, like you, I don't have a lot of time for like my hobbies because I work so much. So, and my hobbies have to be like something I really enjoy. Like, I'm not going to sit there and try to read a book just to talk about it on Twitter. If it doesn't interest me, like, I just can't do it. Like, especially when there's so many other books that I enjoy. So, I don't know. I'll still pick up the Star Wars comics. Like, that was the one thing about the Bad Batch that I was really upset about the Kanan comics kind of being like,
I guess kind of retconned a little bit.
Yeah, because I really did enjoy like the Kanan comic a lot. It was one of my favorites.
Yeah, I was like, oh well, it's sort of slightly there. I kind of go, there's a sliding scale, but in sort of stuff that matters in the comics. I enjoy the comics when I read them and stuff, but again, I kind of go, I kind of prefer that they're bigger things that happen to them happen in the movies. But again, what are you going to do? You're just going to have them sitting around doing nothing for a year, in between movies and things. Apparently something happened in the comics in the one that just dropped that I haven't read. There's some sort of bounty hunters one that supposedly everybody's going like, oh my God, there's some huge big twist or reveal at the end. And I haven't read it. And I've sort of gone, it's going to get spoiled for me eventually, but have you read it or seen anything on that?
No, I don't really want to get spoiled there. I'd rather read it myself. Because
I don't know and you don't know, so that's good.
Yeah. No, I do like enjoy the comics though. So when I saw all that discourse, I was like, oh, okay, I'll definitely pick that up and give it a look because that's interesting. I don't know. I just use Comixology, so I can just like download it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I read the comics with the impression that they were kind of canon. So then I don't know why I have such a weird time when like my favorite stories get like retconned like that. Like it was why I couldn't really get into Solo because I liked the A.C. Crispin novels so much. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I that's like my one weird thing is I don't mind spoilers and I don't really care when like things go off the book, but when like Star Wars like retcons its own stories that it's already told, I'm kind of like sad sometimes. I'm like, oh, but I liked that version. Like,
does it feel like a thing that you didn't realize you liked it so much until it gets retconned? You know what I mean? Like it's that thing where it's like with my girls, it's just like if you try to clean up a toy, then all of a sudden they're like, oh no, I want that. Like, and like it's been sitting there, like you haven't even been looking at it, like, no, but I want it now, and then all of a sudden they both want it. You're like, you guys showed no interest in this before. Yeah. And now I'm putting it away, but you're like, oh, don't go changing that. I like that thing before.
Yeah, pretty much. I think that's definitely what it is. It's like I was like excited to see Solo and I was like, oh, like I'm not going to care whatever happens. And then like I was sitting there watching it and I was like, man, I really liked the other version of like his backstory. Do you think, it is what it is.
Do you think he'll come back? Do you reckon we'll get more Solo? Like,
I don't know. I want a Kira movie. Like I want to see more about Kira. I think she's way more interesting than Han. Like they made Han kind of boring if you really think about it. Like every other character but Han was cool in that movie.
I like the movie. I still think he's got a bit of a weasel face. He's a bit of a weasel face, Han. Like,
yeah, he's just not attractive to me. And like for me, Han Solo was so attractive. And then
that's the thing. Like you just see Harrison Ford, and you're just like, God, like what was I? It might have been Last Crusade or something. I was watching. I saw some clips of quite recently. And you're just like, man, you were just born to be a movie star. There was a photo. There was like a photo of him from the 80s, and it was Mark Hamill and Harrison Ford, and they were at Eric Idle's house. Eric Idle was one of the members of Monty Python, and I guess because I think when they shot Empire in London, I suppose, and I think Mark or Carrie or someone was renting a house that belonged to Eric Idle, so they're all around there, and they've got like a champagne bottle or something, they're celebrating something, and like Harrison Ford's just in this like jeans and like a weird little cardigan with a shirt, like such a not a particularly sexy outfit, but he just looks so cool, even though he's just wearing like a cardigan. And like, man, that's Han Solo all over.
Yeah, and what's his name? Alden
Ehrenreich, yeah.
Yeah, something, I don't know. I'm like, whatever, some weird white guy name. But yeah, I don't know. He's just not like attractive. Like he's not suave. Like Han Solo is supposed to be like hot and like, but he's also, I don't know. They also kind of made him a little bit like sappy for me. Like I don't know. He just wasn't cool. Like,
I guess they
I
were
don't
like,
know.
well, he got hardened, but they were like, well, but it was like he was supposedly living on the streets his whole life. He would have been pretty hardened by then
Yeah,
anyway.
I
He
don't
wouldn't have
know.
been a bit of a, you know, I'll take more Star Wars if they do more. Like he's not doing anything. Like put him in some stuff. But like you said, Kira's quite interesting as well. And I thought she was, and I think Amelia Clark is going to be in some new Marvel show. So she's in the system now. She's in the Disney system. So
Yeah.
once
See,
you,
I think a movie about her and Darth Maul would be so cool. I would watch that for sure.
yeah, I would watch that too. That'd be cool. I'd like to see that.
Yeah.
Well, like, do it, make it all now. Like,
Yeah.
what are you waiting for? We've got this whole Disney Plus platform. I can
Right?
sit there and watch it. Like, I even watched like the new Mighty Ducks show the other day. I'm like, I remember the Mighty Ducks. I'll have a look at that. That must have been
Oh
your
yeah.
jam. Were you
I was
Mighty
was
Ducks?
looking at that. What's that?
Were you a Mighty Ducks girl back in the day?
Um, it's one of those movies that like for some reason was always on, but I just never really like cared about. Is that weird? Because like we didn't have cable growing up, so we just had like very like how like you just have like a revolving door. Like at least people our age had like a couple VHSs that for some reason were just always on.
Yeah, that was all we had.
And the Mighty Ducks was just one of those that was like always on in the background when we were kids, but I never really got into it. Like I was just like, I don't know, they're playing hockey and I don't know.
There's mishaps and
I'm from California where like hockey wasn't really
like too hot for
big.
hockey. Yeah.
Yeah, well, like now we have the Kings and the Ducks, and like I would say in the last like 15, 20 years, like hockey got really popular, but it wasn't popular when I was a kid. So I was just like, I have no attachment to this. Like,
didn't Disney like create a team like that team? The Ducks is like Disney made that team after, didn't they? They're like, we're going to make a hockey team in the NHL. I'm going to call it the Ducks because we had a Ducks movie. Like, is that actually how it happened? Sorry,
I've actually never thought about it. Wow.
Like it's because they're in Anaheim, aren't they? So
yeah, they are in Anaheim. I don't know which came first, the team or the movie.
I don't know. I'm just going like, did they
I really
like make a
need to know
movie and then
now.
go? What would be really good is we'll put a hockey team in Anaheim. We'll call it the Ducks because we're Disney. We can do what we like.
Oh my God. I've never even, okay. Yes, it's true. Okay,
You googling it, eh?
yes. All right, so the club was founded in 1993 by the Walt Disney Company as the Mighty Ducks of Anaheim, a name based on the 1992 film.
Oh my God.
That's crazy. I didn't know
Marketing
that.
synergy. Isn't that insane?
That's so weird. Disney's so creepy. I've never even thought about that. Because I would have been, how old? Like, I would have been a little kid in like 1993, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I probably wouldn't have been aware of like sports teams forming. I don't know.
That's so weird.
Yeah, because Anaheim's like an hour and a half away from where I grew up. So, but I just remember, yeah.
I'm just trying to think of like a popular thing in Melbourne. I'm just like, that'd be like if like MasterChef like started an AFL team and like we're going to start the AFL MasterChefs. Like we're going to start making people like MasterChef the show. Let's just make a AFL team called the MasterChefs, and then we're just going to run. We're going to buy a license in the AFL and have a footy team. That's just bizarre. Okay.
Well, I'm pretty sure Disney owns the Angels in some capacity, like, or they have like, I don't know. The Angels are associated with Disney, and like that's like the big because I'm a Dodgers fan, and like that's a big rivalry between like the fans is like, oh, like you're an Angels fan. If you're in Southern California, like that area, you're an Angels fan or you're a Dodgers fan. And like Dodgers fans are always giving like Angels fans shit for being like go back to Disneyland or like, it's just like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just like, cause they try to call themselves like the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. And we're like, Los Angeles already has a team. Like you can't like just take the name, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Anaheim's not in Los Angeles. What are you doing? And it was like Disney did that. It was weird.
It's so weird. Like America just has, it's such a big place. It's just this whole country of one team towns. Like the AFL here, we've got like 10 teams in Melbourne. You know what I mean? It's just like, well, you across the street, your team sucks, but on our side of the street, our team's cool. And
I've had like people explain it to me. Like I had like a really old like bogan Uber driver once, and he was just like going to town explaining AFL to me, and I was honestly fascinated because I love sports. So I was like, yes, please tell me more. But I thought that was, like, when I moved here, I thought it was so strange that you guys have, like, teams based on, like, a suburb.
Yeah. Because it was just a city.
Does.
Because originally it was just a league. It was the city league, and then it became the state league. And then eventually they were the biggest league, and they started bringing in teams from interstate other states, so they had to keep all the other ones that they had. So it's just a weird way to do it, but here we are. It's a weird one. The Mighty Ducks, there you go. Well, did you, I mean, the whole thing about celebration, I know you said you didn't think you're going to make it a celebration next year anyway, but like just as a general sort of getting back to the States and stuff like that, like this whole travel ban stuff, are you've got family and friends and everything over there. Like we're kind of going, we're probably not going to get over for celebration. Is it just sort of like a double gut punch going, oh, are we ever going to get out of here?
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Like the night that got announced, whatever, I was like out drinking, and I'm not like I did not have a good time with that news. But I did like want to go to celebration. Like we I don't know, we go so back and forth with it just because Star Wars has been exhausting lately. Just like the community has been kind of exhausting.
Yeah.
And then I don't know, like as much as I love conventions, traveling for conventions is a whole different thing. Like it was one thing when we were traveling, like I went to quite a few like out of state conventions when I lived in America, but international travel and jet lag on top of a convention is just a whole different ball game.
Yeah.
Like it's a lot. It's really tiring. Like San Diego Comic-Con was so much fun last year, but man, I was wrecked. Like I did not have the same like stamina that I used to have for that kind of stuff. Because with celebration, like the parties are always really fun, and you're like that temptation is there to like party all night and then get up at like 6 a.m. for whatever panel you need to get in line for, or like.
At least Chicago, we didn't have like Chicago because we had all that. Like Chicago was our first one, and we'd heard all the stories, and you'd come on and talked about all that like lines and everything. And then because they did the ballot system, and we got a whole bunch of stuff in the ballot, that kind of eliminated that, that kind of element out of it. So it did mean that even though if we were out till midnight or 1 or 2 having drinks or doing whatever we're doing, we could still, sleep till 7 or 8 and get up and be at the convention at 10 o'clock or whatever we needed to be. So it did mean that there wasn't as much exhaustion. We kind of had a good move of having a small number in a small place, so it wasn't like a party house all the rest of the time. It wasn't with a couple of people we knew. They were all in one big thing all together, and it never really stopped. So it wasn't like even if you wanted to go to bed, you're at the mercy of what everybody else was kind of doing. So yeah, we're in this weird spot now where, as I said when I had Matt Grant on the other day, where we just kind of, I've still got my ticket, Catherine's still got a ticket, and Matt's got his, and a whole bunch of us still got it, and we're just sort of waiting to see what happens, I think. So
well, and even if like things did open up, I feel like there would be like a quarantine.
Well, that's
something in place.
We just don't know. I mean, they already there was an article this week that came out that said that they're looking at trialing quarantine free or limited quarantine or home quarantine for if you're vaccinated. And I'm getting my vaccination in 2 weeks. So one advantage, the one silver lining of this lockdown is that it's lit a fire under the asses of everybody to get this vaccination rolled out. So it was looking like it was going to be the end of the year before I got a vaccination, and now all of a sudden they've turned around and gone, if you're over, if you're between 40 and 50, you can get it. So I'm booked in 2 weeks to get mine. So hopefully it means that everybody will be jabbed earlier, and we just don't know. So I'm just kind of going, but Catherine and I were talking about accommodation and stuff. So we're just looking at what can we get that we can guarantee that we can cancel without any problem. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, that's why like the hotels there are really great. Like for Anaheim Convention Center, I always stay at the Hilton. That's like my favorite. It's right there. It's super reasonable, and like the cancellation policy is really good.
Yeah, well, we're just we're looking at it at the moment. I think the actual like the block of stuff comes out tonight or tomorrow. So we're just kind of looking at that at the moment and what we're going to do. And yeah, like we're kind of at the attitude of like, hey, if we can get our ducks in the row and we can cancel it and know we get our money back, then we'll just commit. It ain't over till it's over. Basically, we'll know. Yeah, we'll know by April if it's a no-go. It's not going to be the week before. It's in May, right? Yeah, they've moved it. So after they announced the borders were closed till the mid-year, and we all went, oh, that's pretty close to the end of August. And then the next day, Celebration was like, don't worry, everybody, we've moved it up to May now. You're welcome. That's right, because it was in August, yeah? Yeah. Oh, man, August in Anaheim is so hot. So May is probably better anyways. May is like the best month for weather. Oh, great. This is the
Yeah.
inside. This is the inside line. Like, it makes sense.
Yeah.
When we talked about it last week, it made perfect sense for them to do that probably from a release schedule and like promotion and all that kind of stuff
Yeah.
and weather and blah 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 blah. And fair enough.
Oh
And
man,
I'm sure.
Disneyland's gonna be packed.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to go, but we'll just
Oh,
have
you
to
have
see.
to. Disneyland during Celebration is so much fun. I feel like I talk about Disneyland way too much because I really miss it. Like, I miss Disneyland so much.
But
I
you got
miss
to
just
go
like
to. You went to Galaxy's Edge. I think you went to Galaxy's Edge since you've been here. Like
Yeah,
you've done
I've
it
been a couple
Galaxy's Edge.
times. Yeah, I loved Galaxy's Edge. It was amazing. It's so much fun. I haven't been on the new ride though. Apparently, Rise of Resistance is just so cool.
Yeah. Does it feel immersive? Like,
Yeah.
so you still like go, I know this is a theme park, but it does feel pretty Star Warsy.
So they do all this really cool sound technology. So they do a couple things. One is that they completely soundproof all of Galaxy's Edge. So you can't hear or smell or anything else from like Disneyland. Like, you're meant to actually feel like you're in a completely different place.
Oh, that's cool.
And it's really, really cool because you can almost like feel it like when you're going into the park. It's really separate. So like for most of Disneyland, like the transitions between the different like Frontierland and like Adventureland, it's just these quick transitions. But for Galaxy's Edge, it's actually really, you walk really far, so it's just totally separate. And then they do all this really cool like immersive stuff to make you feel like ships are flying over. Like, you feel like the vibration of like a plane flying over your head, but it's ships. Like,
Wow.
and then there's this really cool app that you get, and you can like you can choose what kind of character to be in the world, and it's almost like LARPing. Like, you go on like little quests throughout Galaxy's Edge, and then you like that part's aimed more towards like annual pass holders, because like all my friends are doing it. They were like, oh yeah, I'm a smuggler, so when we get to Galaxy's Edge, I have to go here and pick up this, and then I unlock this, and then I gotta like power up one of the ships, and I gotta like take some cargo somewhere, and like, so you're playing in this app, but you're interacting with the world. Does that make sense? It's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's almost like LARPing. And you can actually like get stuff. Like, one of my friends like went into one of the stores and he got like a kyber crystal because his character did something. It was pretty cool.
So really, it's for, like you said, the annual pass, people who can just keep dropping in whenever they like. Kind of, not the day trippers who are just there for, for the day, trying to see everything at once.
Yeah, and then you can drink as well. There's like a bar.
Oh, nice.
And the bar is really cool, and it has a lot of like stuff for like people that grew up going to Disneyland. Like the old Star Tours had like a pilot. I can't remember his name right now. He was so cute though. He was like the old pilot before like they redid it, and now it's C-3PO. But he's like the DJ at the bar.
Ah, so he's got another gig.
Yeah, and they make jokes about that. He makes jokes about like being really bad at his old job, because like on the old Star Tours ride, he like crashes it and stuff. And he makes jokes about his old job. It's pretty funny. It's like little inside things.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, look, we're hoping that's going to happen. If it doesn't, then they'll probably do it the year after anyway. But it'll be sort of like it'll be 3 years, from going like standing at the floor at Chicago in 2019, like the last day, kind of exhausted, and they go, hey, guess what, everybody, we're coming back next year, and you're kind of like, oh my god, I've just got to get my head around this, and I've got to get back to Australia and then do it all again, and now just kind of going, oh, I wonder if it'll ever happen, really. But yeah. Oh, look, it's like I said, it's not over until it's over. For
See,
me
that's
anyway.
like the one reason I would want to go is to go with all my Australian friends. Like, one of my good friends, Hans, is a DJ. I don't know if you know Hans, but like he's a DJ in Melbourne, and him and his wife Sue's like, I absolutely love them, and they went to the Celebration Chicago, and I was like, man, like that would have been so fun. So like, if we all went to Anaheim, kind of yeah, but also like, I lived in Orange County for 10 years, so like it would have been really fun to like show everyone around. Like that for me probably would have been just as much fun as the actual convention. So I think if we can all go and we can all figure it out, like I would definitely like to.
Well, there's still, I know there's a few people that we know who may or may not be going. So there could be tickets, if you really wanted to go. You know what I mean? Like, it wouldn't be the big one. But you always seem to know someone who knows someone anyway, Tracy.
Well, if the border's open, yeah, for sure. But I don't know. I just don't think I don't think it's gonna be a thing. But I'm just fingers crossed.
I'm not giving up. I'm kind of hoping, but yeah, we'll see. Like, it's all gonna hopefully just be on vaccinations and things. But yeah, look, we'll see. It's good to dream, but it's just like when I did the episode 2 weeks ago, the prospect of being back in lockdown wasn't even, you know what I mean? Like, it didn't even seem like a
Right.
possibility. So.
This one hit out of nowhere. This one was like the hardest one because it was just so out of nowhere.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely. And
none of us knew until literally that morning. I don't think any of us saw this one coming.
And also just kind of like, oh well, they'll still do it. You know what I mean? Like, they'll, like, if they think they got to do it, they'll just do it. It wasn't sort of, you know, because there's been a few sort of close calls as well where they've, like, we've had a few sort of like, oh, you know, is something going to happen, and then it didn't happen. It all kind of blew over, and this one sort of like got away from us. But yeah, look, it's okay.
I think when I saw that Circus was like a tier 1, I was like, oh no, we're going to lockdown. I was like, oh no, we're screwed.
There's too much partying going on over there.
Yeah. I actually really like that club too, and it was really funny.
This is just so past my time. Of like the times I used to, I never went down on Chapel Street that much anyway because it wasn't sort of near where I lived. But even when I was in my early 20s, it was what, you know, where we were going and things. But you know, a whole generation of stuff passed through there since I was really out.
Yeah.
I think your bar's the only one that I know on Chapel Street now, really.
Yeah, which is fair, a little more laid back, but we do get like, it was just funny because like all of the staff from all those clubs did come into Jane Doe that weekend for drinks, so I was like, great, like, we're screwed. But yeah, it was pretty funny because I think me and my friends who are also like bar and club managers. One of my girlfriends she's one of the managers at 161, which is like another really big club off of Chapel Street. Mm-hmm. And we were just messing each other as the news was coming out, and we're just like, holy shit, Circus, and just like a list of like laughing, crying emojis, because we're like, the minute it got there, we're just screwed. It's gonna spread like wildfire. And there's been all these really funny TikToks of like just Melbourne clubbing TikToks that have been just taking the piss, and it's been great. It's been hilarious.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just gotta laugh.
It's kind of amazing that it's not as bad as it could. You know what I mean? Like, that it is only like, we only had 3 cases today or 2 cases today or whatever it was, you know, and it was, you know, a week and 2 ago there was some infected person like bumping and grinding all night down at the club, you know, till all hours of the night.
And at the footy.
and at the footy and all these places and stuff as well. So it's actually quite amazing that it's not just like all of a sudden there's just hundreds and hundreds of people who've been infected by this. So it's kind of, you're like, well, maybe at least he washed his hands or he did something. So
yeah, definitely. It's super funny. I don't know. I just gotta laugh at it. It's just ridiculous. But yeah. But I don't know. Like hopefully we just all get vaccinated and then we can all travel and we can all go to Celebration because I would really like to go to cons again. I really miss that. That's been like one of the harder things about this whole pandemic because I'm like, when am I going to go to San Diego Comic-Con again? Or like, when am I going to go to Celebration?
I think they're doing I think New York one is on in like November or something. I think they're just doing it in New York, the New York Con. And I thought that was quite interesting because when the Celebration stuff, when they kind of moved the date, they were like, hey, we're going to do this and there'll be rules and there'll be masks and there'll be this and you can't do this and you can't do this and you can't do this. And a lot of people are a bit like, oh, well, God, like it's like a police state. I'm like, well, they've got to be as prepared as they can as if they were doing it today because that's kind of the standard. You know what I mean? Like, who knows what it'll be in a year's time. It could be way looser, but you've got to show that you're basically being as professional as possible. So it'd be quite interesting to see when this New York one comes out, whether they're going, oh my God, like no one wore a mask. It was a free-for-all. It was a super spreader event or it was like, oh, everybody was vaccinated. It was fine. There was no issues. You know, it was just people fighting over, you know, like Black Series figures or something or exclusives or whatever or pops or something. Yeah, the normal stuff.
See, my impression, like, I've never been to New York Comic Con, but a lot of my friends go, and I think New York Comic Con is probably one of the better ones to see because from my perspective, from what I've been told, is like New York Comic Con is a lot of professionals because, you know, San Diego Comic Con is a lot of like professionals, but it's a really weird mix of like the general public and professionals. But New York Comic Con, from my like understanding, is a lot more organized and a lot more professional. So I think if any of the cons are going to be like civilized, it'll be that one.
Yeah, because they've also probably got like, hey, we've got our company reputation. If so-and-so from Hasbro is refusing to wear a mask and being a dick, it's going to come back to Hasbro. And Yeah, whereas I don't see San Diego Comic-Con being a thing because it's just, I mean, it's in the last couple of years, like I'm surprised there wasn't a pandemic just from San Diego Comic-Con. Like you're packed in there. Like I'm so lucky that I get to work at a booth and I get to kind of like
sit down and like be in my own little
Have
area
a space to pull
because
back into. Yeah.
yeah, like because honestly, I remember going to get on the Saturday last year. I went to go get like one of my friends messaged me. I was like, oh, I'm in this hall, you know, whatever. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm gonna take a break from the booth and I'm gonna like go meet them. And it was more crowded, like than anything I've ever experienced. Like there were points where like you were just stuck in between people and couldn't walk, and it would like bottleneck. And I'm like thinking back, I'm like, there's no way San Diego Comic Con with the numbers that they were packing into that convention center could be a thing.
Mm. Yeah, well, Celebration was only really the first day was sort of really packed, and that was the preview day, which I don't know if they've even done before, where it was basically like, hey, the floor's open, the shops are open, but there's no panels, so so everyone's just on the floor because there's nowhere else to go. So, and it's, you know, especially that first morning because like everybody wants to get there because it's the first day. So that was really like, oh my god, like I'm just sort of pushing through all these people to get around. But then by the second day, you know, by the time all the panels and everybody was sort of spread out, and that Chicago Convention Center was pretty spread out. It was, you know, you could just walk around. It was fine. Like it was no issues really. But, oh look, you know, I haven't done a San Diego one. I'll have to put that on the bucket list for one day. You know, baby steps.
Like it's definitely a bucket list thing, but I think Celebration's a little more fun, especially at the Anaheim Convention Center. Like that's why like I'm kind of hoping it does work out because Anaheim's a great convention center. It's really, really like it's just well planned out. Like BlizzCon's always been my favorite convention, but BlizzCon is like never feels too crowded.
Is it the big dragons and stuff one, or is that a bit of is it a sort of more D&D kind of thing? Maybe I'm generalizing here.
Like Blizzard.
Oh,
Blizzard
like World of Warcraft kind of thing.
Yeah, so like World of Warcraft, Diablo, Overwatch.
Yep. That wasn't too far off.
Heroes of the dragons. Yeah, sick, nailed it. The one with the dragons.
With the dragons, like, yeah, just that one fantasy thing that has dragons.
Not to be confused with Dragon Con.
Yeah, just called the one.
See, Dragon Con's my like bucket list convention.
What do they do at Dragon Con?
So Dragon Con's the really big one in Atlanta. It's probably like.
I think I've heard Molly and Alex talk about that from Star Wars.
Yeah. They're a lot of the people that go are like die hard about it. Like my friends that go to Dragon Con are always like, it's the best convention. You basically just get really drunk the whole time. Everyone's fun. Like it doesn't take itself too seriously. It's not like San Diego Comic Con where it's like you're at really fun, like exclusive parties and there's probably celebrities there, but like you kind of have to behave yourself. Apparently, like Dragon Con is just like a free for all. It's like nerd spring break.
Oh God.
Yeah. Which actually, now that I'm 33, sounds kind of shit. Like maybe I don't want to go to that.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like just to round up, you're like talking about like getting older and caring less about, you know, petty people squabbling over the internet and whether something is as good as something else. You know, go, well, that's one upside of, you know, being my age and being able to get vaccinated already. You know, so it's not so bad after all. You know, there are upsides, but at the same time, you're like, well, could have been having a good time like that guy who went to that bar and infected everybody, you know.
Yeah, I don't know.
His best life.
I don't know if I have it in me to be at Dragon Con for like 4 days just dealing with horny nerds. I don't know, that might not be my favorite. Because apparently it's like super incestuous.
Oh right. Yeah. They're all just got their little all their little hookups at the con. Oh my god, it's just such another world. I've got no idea. Thanks so much for coming on, Tracy. So awesome to talk to you. You know, hopefully we'll catch you in person, you know, in a week or 2 or 3 or 4 weeks, or just, you know, when everything's back to normal. That's the whole thing. We're going to be living in the, you know, hopefully we'll snap out pretty quick and we can sort of pick up where we left off and things. But where can people find you if they want to, you know, follow your work online?
My work, my bullshit. I'm a feminist nerd on Twitter and Instagram.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And and then pop down to Chapel Street for a few beers and say hi to Tracy when everything opens up again. As long as you don't ask for what the cheapest thing is on the menu.
Yeah, just don't ask me the cheapest way to get drunk and we'll be fine.
What is the cheapest way to get drunk at your bar, actually, out of interest? Like, what is it though?
I mean, it's the same as anything. Probably just shots.
Yeah.
Yeah. you're like just for my friends. No, I'm not asking for myself. What's the cheapest way to get drunk?
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, I always tell people, I'm like, I don't know, shots.
I don't know, next door maybe. Or,
I don't know. Getting a bottle and drinking in your car.
Yeah, like go to Dan Murphy's or something. It's probably the cheapest.
Yeah.
Awesome, mate. Well, thanks everybody for listening. So release stuff is a little sporadic just because we're in the middle of a lockdown here. So you're going to get it when you get it. That's just the way it is. Who cares? It's only podcasting. It doesn't mean anything. Awesome. Thank you so much, Tracy.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I'll see you soon.
Yeah, cheers.